So my name is Megan Stevenson, and I'm the director of Erskine Green Training Institute.
I'm Morgan Hickman, and I am one of the supporters for Erskine Green, and I work in downtown.
And he's a grad, a GTI grad, yeah.
My name is Ruta, and I am also a grad from EGTI.
All right. So the ARC of Indiana, so you have the ARC US, which is the national organization, and then states have their own ARC chapter. So the ARC Indiana, the ARC Illinois, the ARC Ohio. Mission is to advocate on behalf of those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So kind of going to the State House and lobbying to get things passed to better affect the lives of those that we're trying to advocate for. So about 10-ish years ago, the topic of the unemployment rate of those with disabilities was just very popular, especially amongst the board of the ARC of Indiana. And so a lot of their sons and daughters were now kind of transitioning out of high school, and the conversations changed from high school services to now adult life, unemployment being a big concern. And so just through conversations and kind of looking long term and kind of having some big ideas, conversations started going around a hotel that was sitting empty up in Muncie, Indiana. So Muncie is about an hour north of here, and so there's a hotel sitting empty. There's a convention center right across the street from the hotel. And so conversations started to look like, what if we purchased this hotel, turned it back into a functioning hotel, and it served two purposes. One, it's immediate employment opportunities for individuals with a variety of disabilities. So in order to run the hotel, you have to have employees. And then the second purpose would be, let's have a training program inside of this hotel. So let's bring other students from across the state. They can train at the hotel, leave with a very specific set of skills. So when they move back home, they can transfer those into an employment. And so conversations, planning continue to happen. The ARC did a feasibility study to see, does this even make sense to move forward with? By the time that feasibility study came back, another realty group purchased it, and it's now senior living. You guys know the building, right? Right across from the hotel? Yep. So older people live in there, and so now it was, okay, well, now what? And so again, all these conversations developed strong relationships in the city of Muncie, and ultimately the city of Muncie donated another piece of land to us and said, if we donate this to you, will you move forward with the project and just build the hotel from scratch? And so ultimately the ARC did. And so we built a hotel. What's the name of our hotel? Microphone.
It's the Marriott Convention Center.
Yep, so the Courtyard Marriott at the Horizon Convention Center. And so with that, when you're building a hotel, again, we're a disability organization. We know nothing about the hotel business or the for-profit business because we're a not-for-profit. So, you know, we launched a capital campaign, brought people on board that can guide how we do this. We chose the Courtyard by Marriott franchise, but we are the owners of it. We then wanted to have a restaurant component to our hotel. So Ruta, what is the name of the restaurant that we have in the hotel?
The name of the restaurant that we have in the hotel is called Three Wise Men.
Yep. So the restaurant's Three Wise Men. So that's in the hotel as well. Because the Courtyard by Marriott has a bistro, but wasn't enough for us to be able to do a good training, and so we wanted that restaurant component as well. So built the hotel, the restaurants inside of the hotel, we own it, but then we have management companies that manage it for us. So as the owners, we say that at least 20% of the employees at the hotel and 20% of the employees at the restaurant have to have a disability of some kind. And it doesn't matter what type of disability, mental illness, physical disability, intellectual, all of the above. It does not matter. So that was purpose one. We built this hotel, and it's employment opportunities now. The second purpose is then having the training program inside of the hotel. So what's the name of the training program? Morgan?
So we have different training programs. We have
What's the name of our school?
Erskine Green Training Institute.
Good, yep. So Erskine Green Training Institute is the name of our program. And I always kind of tell people who aren't up there, we're a school inside of the hotel, essentially. So you walk into the hotel, and Erskine Green Training Institute is on the first level. So we have separate doors that go into our space, where we have classroom space, a training lab in there, our staff offices are in there, our health station is in there, so it's within the hotel. And then our students are coming from all over the state of Indiana, and we've had outside of the state. We've had a student come from Illinois, we've had a student come from Ohio as well. So our students can come from wherever. They have to at least be 18 years old and out of high school. So our students have already exited. Now, in our state of Indiana, and I'm sure with you as well because you're so close, a hot topic is certificate of completion, diploma, that whole piece. We don't care what a student left high school with. So it doesn't matter if you dropped out, doesn't matter if you got a GED, a certificate, diploma. So right now, our most recent data, 54% of our students, we've had 133 students go through our program in 3 years. 54% got a certificate of completion. Then we've had a few drop out, a few get a GED, and then 44-ish had a diploma of some kind. Our average age right now is 23. So that's the average start age. Ruta, how old were you when you started?
I was 19.
19. How old were you, Morgan?
I was 20.
When you started, okay. So our oldest student so far has been, I think, 54. And we just accepted a 45-year-old. So there's no cap on how old our students can be. They just have to be 18 and out of high school. So when students are applying to our training program, they have to select a training program. Now, we don't call them majors, but I sometimes call them majors because it just makes sense. When we went to college, we chose one major based on our skill set and our interests. That's the same with us. We have 9 training programs, and students are applying to just one of those training programs. So, Ruta, do you remember what all the healthcare ones were? What are the healthcare options?
Patient transport, environmental services, the cleaning.
Nutrition
service. There we go.
And then what one did you do?
And then I was in supply chain distribution.
Good. And then Morgan, do you remember the restaurant and the hotel jobs?
So we have, for the hotel, we have front desk, housekeeping, and then we also have prep cook, and then host.
And then dishwasher.
And then dishwasher, yeah.
So we have 9 different ones. Students are applying to one. So when they submit their application, they have selected which training program they want to do. And that decision is based off what parents think, what a job coach, what a VR counselor, transition coordinator, kind of whoever's supporting that student would help determine which training program is appropriate fit for them. Now, we have some students who come from high schools who had really good experience in high school. Like Morgan came from a high school in Indiana where he was going to a career center for 4 years doing culinary stuff. So he left high school knowing that he wanted to do culinary stuff. Did you have a lot of work experience in high school? So Ruta got a diploma, and I'm sure you see this. If you're on diploma track, you don't really get a lot of work experience in the high school setting. So for students who just aren't sure what they want to do, we offer career sampling sessions throughout the year. These are not a requirement, but it's an option. Ruta, you came to a career sampling session, right?
Yes.
Did you come to one, Morgan?
No.
Okay, Morgan knew what he wanted to do. He didn't need to come to one. So these career sampling sessions are 2 days long. It's just a $25 fee, which covers lunch. And then students get to rotate through the 9 training programs. So they'll spend about an hour watching the kitchen cooks learn about it, watch a kitchen cook doing it, and then our staff will do a quick little assessment on them to determine what their skill set is like in that job. We've determined 5 skills for each job. And so when they're on that rotation, our staff will pull them aside one-on-one, have them do those 5 skills, and then they'll get a score. Then they'll rotate to another the host. Learn about the host, watch it. Our staff will pull them aside one-on-one, have them do those 5 skills, then they get a score. So at the end of those 2 days, they will have seen all 9 of the programs, and then they'll leave with a copy of that assessment. So then their support team back at home can help them determine, okay, what is a good fit, maybe what's not a good fit. Do you remember what you scored on inventory distribution? Pretty high, yeah. So like if you scored a 70, 80, 90%, to us, from those 5 skills that we saw, you have a good skill set. Now, if a student would have scored 20, 30, 40%, to us that would be concerning. Their skills just are not strong enough right now for that program. So that's one opportunity that we have for students who just aren't sure what program that they want to do. So then the student applies. We then bring them up to our setting for 2 hours to complete an interview and assessment. So we're going to look at more skills in that 2-hour interview and assessment to make a determination of whether or not it's a good fit for the student. So you guys did it, you were accepted into the program. They then come up for new student orientation where they get to meet the other students that will be there, and then they move in. So we do have the option for commuters. We haven't had a ton. Maybe 10% of our students have lived within Muncie, so they've commuted, but everybody else has lived at the hotel. So they're living at the hotel. They can have a roommate or they can have their own room. And then during the day, Monday through Friday, they're being trained by our staff. And then in the evenings and weekends, they're able to do kind of whatever they want to do. So Morgan, talk a little bit about the training program you did and just a little bit about what you were learning in that program.
So I did the prep cook program, and I did, so we went 3 Wiseman, 3 out of 6 days of the week, and then the other days we were at 3 Wiseman. And I learned a lot. We did knife skills, and then we also got to make different foods at 3 Wiseman. And then I also, like on the weeknights and stuff, I would just hang out with these other students and get to know them. So, I mean, it was a really unique and cool experience overall.
Then I'll have Ruta explain a little bit. What did you learn while you were there, kind of what that looked like, the job?
Okay, I did supply chain distribution, and pretty much is we restock what is called clean room and nurses station. It's kind of a little different at each hospital, but pretty much we had handheld scanners. So first thing in the morning we scan, everything will be sent downstairs, and then we'll go down there, grab it, and we have to pick it, and then bring it back upstairs, and then restock all the stations. And so a lot of organization.
So while they're with us, they're learning that one job. I view high school as the opportunity to dabble in a little bit of everything. When you go to post-secondary, it's time to specialize, develop a strong set of skills to then lead you into employment. Morgan, where did you get a job? Where are you working now?
So after graduating from Postsecondary, I got a job at Scotty's Warehouse, and I worked there for about 2 years. And then now I am working at Buffalo Wild Wings in downtown.
And then Ruta, and talk about where you work.
Okay, I just got a job at Methodist Hospital.
Which is a hospital down here. And what are you doing there?
I'm in supply chain, which is for a bit different than first shift, but second shift, so it's kind of it's the same thing, but a bit more.
So a huge piece, the main piece of our training program is employment. We want students developing the skills to move into employment afterwards. The second most important piece is just learning how to live on their own. So a lot of our students haven't been gone away from their parents for a long period of time, or parents aren't sure, could they live on their own? Could they not live on their own? And so coming to EGTI is an opportunity for them to be on their own, yet in a safe environment where they get to figure that out. And so something that we weren't really expecting when we started our program was the amount of kind of students moving out, living on their own that we would see. So both Morgan and Ruta moved out of their homes after graduation. You want to say where you're living?
So I am living here in downtown. I live close to Mass Ave. I moved out of my parents' house about 3 months after graduating, and I've been living on my own for 2 years now.
I also live right here downtown. I live on Illinois and 13, so it's really not that far from Methodist Hospital. And I've been on my own for about a month, so. Yeah.
Newbie.
Yep.
Do either of you guys drive?
No, I do not drive. I have my license, but I don't have a car because I mostly walk or ride my bike downtown.
Ruta, do you drive?
No, I also don't drive.
Do you have your license yet?
I do, yep,
Okay,
yep.
so they live downtown where they don't have to rely on driving. Everything's so close. So talk a little bit about how you each get to work.
So usually for me, I usually walk or ride my bike to work. Sometimes I'll Uber depending on the weather. But that's usually how I get to work each day.
I also walk for most of the part my commute between work and home.
Yeah. So they're good examples of individuals who got a good set of skills, went on and found jobs, but then also took another step by moving out on their own. A big piece of our training is, yes, the job training, but then also since we have students living at the hotel, we have to quickly find out, can we trust these two going out in the evening and the weekend? Or is a panhandler going to take advantage of them and ask for money? Are they going to get hit by a car crossing the street? Are they going to get lost if they go out on the bus system? If a stranger knocks on their hotel room door, are they going to let that stranger walk in? And so we have developed a community access checklist that really prompts our staff what to look at, what to assess, what to teach, so we can get an idea of who needs support and who's good on their own. And so since students are living there, we do have 24/7 support. We have our full-time staff there Monday through Friday teaching. So our instructors are special ed instructors who came from the K-12 setting. And then we are a few minutes away from a university. And so we always snatch up all the special ed majors and just other students that can serve as part-time staff for us. So in the evening, there were always two staff at the hotel. All day Saturday, all day Sunday, there was always two part-time staff, and then overnight hours, there was always somebody. So should something happen in the evening, weekends, where support is needed, or maybe full-time staff need to help step in for something, the part-time staff are there to kind of relay information to us or just provide general support to the students. But with that community access checklist, we had to determine if Ruta wants to go to the mall, can we send her on her own, or does one of our part-time staff have to go with her? And so that community access checklist was broken down into levels 1, 2, and 3. What levels did you guys get to?
I got to level 3.
Okay.
And I passed on level 3.
Did you check, were you checked off on level 3?
Yes,
Good.
I was.
Okay, what about you, Ruta?
I was also checked off of level 3.
Good, okay. So level 1 is all about stranger awareness within really the hotel setting. So we're looking at behavioral stuff. So in the evenings when they are in the hotel lobby, do they behave appropriately to where we feel comfortable letting them out without constant supervision? We're looking at the strangers. So if somebody knocks on their hotel room door, do they handle it the way we've taught and role played? If somebody comes up in the hotel lobby and asks them, oh, what room number are you in? Or can you come help me unload my car? Do they walk out the door with them? And so our staff teach that, they role play it, and then we send people that we know that they do not know up to their rooms or send them to approach them in the hotel lobby, and then those people report to us how they did. How did you guys do on the door knock assessments? Did you pass right away?
Yeah.
Oh, Ruta, you're a good one.
Yeah, for me, I passed. It was pretty easy because, I mean, basic stuff like that, I mean, you tend to learn either before you come or just to have awareness about stuff like that.
Which isn't the case in all of our students.
Yeah, so.
I've just obviously picked our two highlight students to come here today. But we've definitely had students that open their door and allow the stranger to come in and use their room phone. We've definitely, Michael Sharkey walked out the hotel with a stranger And so we definitely have students that just need more work on stranger awareness type skills. These two behaved appropriately in the hotel lobby. And so once we see all of this stuff in action, we know either, okay, we can check them off on level 1, which means, say everybody wants to go to Ball State to eat dinner, but these two don't want to. Maybe they're not feeling well or they don't want to get out. We feel comfortable leaving them back at the hotel alone, and then the 2 part-time staff can go with everybody else. But if they weren't checked off on level 1, we'd have to keep 1 part-time staff back with them, and the other part-time staff can go with everybody else. Once they are good on level 1 skills, we then look at level 2 skills. Do you remember what was on level 2? Ruta's fresher from the program.
Yes, level 2 was, can you just walk around downtown on your own? So pretty much, can you cross the street looking both ways, and can you, if you get lost somewhere, can you call and be like, hey, I'm here, where do I go?
Panhandler.
Panhandler, yep.
Did you have a panhandler come up to you and ask for money?
Yeah.
So we know somebody that we use to assess our students, and then we'll send the student out, and then they'll get approached by that panhandler. Did you give them money? No. So we definitely have had students that do hand over money. So once we see how they do on the navigation, the pedestrian, handling the panhandler, can they call or text if they get lost, we then will check them off on level 2. So that means, say they want to go to Casa del Sol, which is always a favorite Mexican restaurant downtown Muncie, they can go on their own. But if they're not checked off on level 2, they can still go. We just would send one of our part-time staff with them. And then we start looking at level 3 skills. What are level 3 skills?
So our level 3 skills is the bus system, so the transit system, and basically if you can get to one place to another by yourself without having help. And so they go through and see if you have the skills, and they test you on if you can get to the mall and back to the hotel safely.
So, like, we have a transit system up in Muncie. So, can you read the book, or can you download the app on their cell phone, and you know what route will take you to your desired destination and what time it's going to leave, and can you get yourself back? So we teach all that. We definitely have students who can do it. We have other students that it's just too tough for them, and again, that's okay. So like these two were checked off on level 3. So if they want to go to the mall, they want to go to Target, they want to go to Walmart or to Ball State to eat, they can go on their own. For the other students who maybe aren't checked off on level 3, they can still go, just a part-time staff would go with them. So that community access checklist was developed so we have an idea of who needs support in the evenings and the weekends while they're with us. Talk a little bit, how long is the training program? So how long, and it may have changed since you were there, Morgan. How long was the program when you were there?
So whenever I was going to the training program, it was 3 months. So we started in September and then ended in December.
So we have some programs that are 13 weeks long. And then Ruta, how long was your program?
The one I was in supply chain was only 10 weeks.
10 weeks. So I think 5 of our programs are 10 weeks long and 4 of them are 13 weeks long. So that's the length of time that they're there. Now they can go home on the weekends if they want. They can have visitors, just like normal college. If you want to go home, go for it. If you want to have a parent come up on a Saturday night to take you out to dinner, go for it. Did you guys go home at all during your time?
Whenever I was there, I only went home twice in the 3 months that I was there, so I didn't go home too often.
Ruta, did you go home?
Yes. The weekend I went home was for Labor Day weekend. I believe it was when he had 3 days, so that's when I went home.
So we always say do what you want. But if you're asking our opinion, we would recommend that you stay as much as possible. Just because it gives you time to build connections with other students, it gives you time to learn how to do life on your own, and if you're going home all the time, kind of takes away from that. So we definitely have a few that go home more frequently, but for the most part, students are staying for most of their time. So once students graduate, we do have an exit meeting. So kind of like a case conference, but we call them exit meetings. So it's either like the last 2 weeks of the program. We invite the student's parent, VR counselor, job coach. A lot of our students are on the family support waiver, so any of their staff that they see regularly come to the meeting. We talk about how the student did, and then get everybody on the same page for, okay, so you're moving back home, what's the game plan? Because the whole adult world services is extremely confusing, and families are getting out of high school. They've been in there since kindergarten. They know how the schools work, and then they exit, and then it's like, oh my gosh, how does like this adult world work? And so it's confusing. And so at that exit meeting, it's our time to just make sure that parents understand the role of the job coach understands that the parents understand what they are supposed to be doing. The VR counselor is making connections all before they leave, because we found at the very beginning we didn't do these exit meetings, and families were going home and sitting, and they're waiting for the job coach to call them, but then the job coach thought that they were supposed to be calling them, and then it was just sitting and doing nothing. So we quickly found out that we need to do these exit meetings to make sure everybody is aware of everybody's roles. So when the student gets back home, they continue to move. We want them getting into employment quick. We don't want them to get back into that habit of sitting and doing nothing. So that has helped. You know, the whole job coach topic is always tough. Maybe aren't as strong as what the families were hoping for, or aren't as working with the student as frequently. So again, it's helping parents know what the job coach should be doing, so then they can advocate for their child to make sure they're getting the support that they need. We do follow-up surveys. So after a student exit, they then get a follow-up survey at the 8-month mark post-graduation, and then another survey at the 18-month mark post-graduation. So right now, our most recent data that we just pulled, at 8 months post-graduation, 78% of the students are working. It shifts. It's 78 to 81% is what we have seen working at the 8-month mark. And then at the 18-month mark, 72 or 74% are still working. And it's a range from part-time to full-time. Definitely more part-time work, but like the most recent was 25-ish were full-time, and then the rest were part-time. So a lot of our students are on the family support waiver. Ruta, you're not. Morgan, you are. But do you still use their services?
I don't think so. I have like a therapist, but...
So that's through the family support waiver. Okay. So waiver does not pay for training.
Oh.
So let's say, so students are moving up to our hotel or down to our hotel for 10 to 13 weeks. Typically, their waiver services are going on hold. So like a lot of our students have respite care. Well, you can't use respite care when you're with us. CHIO hours, so like going out into the community. Our part-time staff kind of play that role while they're with us, so they don't really need those hours to continue. So a lot of times those services are just going on hold, and when they move back, then they just resume. The one service that they would continue is if they have a behavioral therapist. We want to make sure that we remain in contact with them. They're Skyping regularly, or the behavioral therapist comes up to our program to meet with them. But other than that, the waiver services are kind of put on hold. Our main funding source is vocational rehabilitation. So 133 students have gone through our program. Out of that 133, 125 have been fully funded through Voc Rehab. Well, every state has their own Bureau of Rehabilitative Services. Now they work independently, so it would be however your BRS system works, yeah. But both Ruta and Morgan were going through VR, so VR funded their entire costs. Yep. So our cost is anywhere from $12,000 to $22,000, and that includes tuition, room and board, meal plan. We have a nurse who consults with us, the evening and weekend staff. So of that, I mean, again, VR is the main funding source. Now we get random scholarship dollars at different points in time. So right now we have a large amount of scholarship dollars that can be used only in a certain part of the state. So if you don't come from that part of the state, we can't use it on you. We've had some parents just private pay. They're in a situation where they can do that. And we've had a few students use the ABLE account, which is new, but they had been saving in a 529 account. We can't take $529 because we aren't offering credits or degrees. And so they folded those $529 into the ABLE account, and then ABLE account can pay for training. So Indiana University got a grant. The grant has since dissolved, but the grant was to establish relationships with high schools and the local college and university. So then in that last year of high school, the student wouldn't be going to the high school. They would be spending their time on that college or university's campus. And then it would be staffed by a K-12 teacher. So typically a high school teacher would then be staffing that. And students would then do different jobs on the college or university setting. And I don't know if some, I think, would audit classes. But we have, I don't know, 6, 7-ish programs like that in Indiana. But again, in order to participate in that, you have to be in a school system that participates in that. So it's not for all of Indiana. Yeah, we have monthly tours. Yeah. And if a monthly tour doesn't work, we do high school field trips all the time, or people who can't make one of the monthly tours, we schedule separate stuff all the time. So yeah, that's not a problem at all. Yeah, and we do an hour presentation, so more in detail about our programming, and then a tour of the facility. Now, for Ruta lived at the hotel, but then she got on the bus every morning and rode it over to the hospital, trained there for the day, and then returned back to the hotel at the end of the day. But then Morgan just trained within the hotel and restaurant. Did you guys like it? Yeah. Did you want to move home? Were you ready for it to be over at the end of it? Yeah. You can be honest. My feelings don't get hurt.
So for me, I was ready to move home and stuff, but I was planning to move out after I got home, but it just took some time to figure out what was the next step for me moving out and stuff, because straight after I graduated, I got a job at Scotty's, and then from there I started planning to move out. So I was ready to move out and venture out on my own.
For me, it was a little different because it was my first time ever moving away from home and living somewhere else for 10 weeks. And then I kind of got that taste of hey, living on my own is actually so great and I don't want to leave. So yeah, when that ended 10 weeks, graduation day, I was no, I don't want to go. I'm not ready yet. But yeah, it was a really great program.
Yeah, we see that a lot. Which is why we talk so much about you've got to keep the ball rolling, because students come to our program, they don't have, I moved back home after college, and it's you're kind of going backwards, but you go home, you go back to save up money and then move out. But with our students, we didn't expect this at the beginning, and then we quickly found out it was kind of an issue. So then we always are telling parents at new student orientation, we're talking about this so parents can be planning for it and can expect it. But we've seen a good amount of students go back home and then struggle because they up with us. Every morning they have to get up, they have to get ready, they have to get to work all day, they're going, and then they go back home, and if there's not quick movement into employment, they get back home and they sit, and then there's no structure to their day, and it tends to be challenging. And so we talk about parents, the transition to EGTI is tough. Week 1, we have tears. We have students saying they don't want to do it, they want to quit. So we always talk about that. It's going to happen. We don't care. We will push them through it. But parents at home, please don't feed into that. And then we have to talk about what that transition is like back home, because a lot of families aren't expecting it to be tough when they go back home, and we've seen that it is. Yeah. Because who wants to move back home, right?
With roommates, or you live on your own, or?
Do you have a roommate, or do you live on your own?
Hotel. Kind of a little bit of whichever you decide, whether you have a roommate or not. Me, I didn't have a roommate.
At the hotel, yep. And then when you're living now, do you have a roommate, or are you by yourself?
No, I do not have a roommate, nope.
And then with me, I had a roommate at the hotel, so I actually had 2 different roommates. So the first 9 weeks of the program, I had a roommate, and he was doing the hospital, so he got done with it before I did, and then I switched over to someone that was in the same program as me. But for right now, I'm living on my own, so I don't have a roommate. Yeah.
We've had a few roommate situations that are a little tough and don't work out. We need to change that out. We have one roommate, Aaron and Zach. They room together. year one. So this is 2 years ago. And now Zach's getting married, and Aaron, they're still friends, and Aaron's going to be a groomsman in his wedding. So that's been kind of cool to see, just like the friendship. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for sticking around.
Thank you very much. You did a great job.
Thank you.